So can you tell me your name and how you got started with this organization?
Well, my name is Rev Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the Open Door Youth Gang Alternative Program. We're the oldest anti-gang program in the state of Colorado. Been a part of the Marade. Boy, this is just about 30 years of being involved. You know, when the Webbs came up with a vision, you know, to put all this together, you know, years ago, along with some of the patriots of this city. You know, I was a youngster back in the days, and I was able to latch onto their vision and wanted to be a part. And we've seen it grow over the years. You know, certainly in times of old, it's been much larger, but yet because of things that have happened nationally, you know, we are where we are right now. Decades later, you know, the dream of Dr. King is certainly still alive and is still relevant to us today. Trying to get some of these youngsters to understand his vision has been our challenge. We're dealing with a change of demographics, the change of environments here in our city. I know Atlanta was one of the largest MLK Marades put together, and now I think that we've sort of superseded that. But you know, when you start looking at the makeup of the groups and the crowds over the years, we see that there's certainly been a change. It's not just a black thing, it has seemed to become a people's thing. And that has been his image and dream, you know, to unite people. And I think that's what we're trying to still keep this alive here. So being involved, my thing is playing whatever role that I can to help motivate and provoke and focus on the purpose. And working together with the crew that we've been able to do that.
And so this is a volunteer-based program, so nobody's being paid. It's a beautiful Saturday in the middle of January. What keeps you coming back volunteering?
Well, for me, it has certainly been, the thing that keeps me coming back year after year after year has been still the image of the dream. I still have hope in the dream. I know as a kid growing up in this city, decades ago, I've been able to see, we talk about the changes here. And if I could establish, I knew that somebody who invested time in me as a kid growing up, I feel like if that investment could be put back into the kids that we're dealing with today, you know, the promise of the dream will continue to go forth. So, yes, it's a nice sunny day on today, but in 2 days from now, it's going to be cold. And we've in past had to endure the blizzard temperatures. We've endured rain. We've endured a lot of things. But again, it's not the atmosphere around us. It's the atmosphere that's within our spirit, within our heart, to keep this vision alive. If we was able to do it on calm and nice days, then, you know, where would we be? You know, but yet it just really tells the story of those true pioneers who put their lives on the line and sacrificed, you know, through the winter, through the summer, through the spring, through the fall, to keep the dream alive. And I would like to think that as the time goes on, and even if God seemed to call me in, you know, he would be, people would be able to say, at least I wasn't out there doing the Marade on the sunny days. We were there doing the cloudy through the storm as well. So if I could motivate others to do the same, and which others have done, then that's part of my spirit.
And so we're coming up on King's 50th anniversary of his death. And the theme of this year's parade is going to be Sacrifice for Justice. What does that mean to you? You know,
people have to understand what the word sacrifice is. They have to be able to really define it. Sacrifice is not just warranted to convenience. You know, I think I wake up today and sacrifice a couple hours out of my schedule to do this. We have to understand what sacrifice is. We use our pioneers like Dr. King, who was willing to put his life and his safety in a compromising position for the rights of mankind and the rights of human rights. And we often think that we could make these commitments as long as that hedge is around us, as long as the conflicts don't ever really come our way. But yet, to be the type of person that is willing to make the sacrifice and to go above and beyond the comfort zones, to stand steadfast on the vision of a man that has sacrificed his life, his family, and others, for this cause. I think that's what the true meaning of what we got to understand sacrifice to be.
And so another question that I had was, so we're getting to the point where people under the age of 60 they don't have a personal connection or personal memories of Dr. Martin Luther King. And so, I was reading an interview where Dr. Cornel West said that MLK Jr. is becoming almost like a Santa Clausation is what he called it. So how do we prevent that from happening and give the younger generation more of a connection towards him that isn't just a holiday, a day off, but something where they feel a personal connection to that?
When we look at what happened of his assassination, Dr. King's assassination, I was in middle school at the time, and I saw the effects that had over on this country. But yet before that happened, we were aware of his sacrifices, of his efforts, of his message, of the things that he went through. And he was one that brought a light into this nation of promise. Saying, man, we will overcome, we will survive, we will. And it gave a lot of us black folks that element of hope. And we said, man, we got somebody. And then when we heard of the tragedy of his assassination, it was almost like something just took our spirit, a portion of it away. And that was, over 50 years ago. And as I look back on it now of how we were educated and taught about our past back then, we had classes, I'm in the school right now, East High School, I'm a class of 71. And it has memories of how the pioneers that we had back in the days, who taught us about our heritage, who taught us about history, who taught us about the struggles. But nowadays, that's for us since these kids today have no clue. They look at the struggles of their ancestors as something back in the days. But now they're trying to figure out, certain things. Now they got internet. They could, if they want to find out about a struggle, they just Google it. But yet to be able to make it personal, nothing has become personal about the struggles anymore. So right now is a day not of sacrifice of coming out, it's a day of convenience. It's a holiday, man. I could just chill out. I could stay up all night. I could sleep until I wake up. And so that has been a concern, and that's been an issue about our generation that we're dealing with now. Even here, you see in this Marade martial training, out of 147 people, I counted about 9 blacks. 9 black. I don't know if you caught that on tape, but out of 147 people, there's 9 of us folk. Here, I work in the after-school program over in the hood, and 98% of the student body that I deal with is the kids of color. 99% of my teachers are white. So we look at this, a day, and I often say that even today, if we didn't have the folks who, with their skin's color may be a little different than mine, didn't have the same spirit of sacrifices, of making the dreams be consistent, what would we do? What would we do? How do we motivate us folks, people of color, to get up and come out? And is it the fact that we're dealing with this generation who have no clue of the history because they never had to live it? They never thought it was somewhat of a folk tale, and opposed to an actual reality, and so yeah, it's become somewhat frustrated. And I know when Wilma Webb and the pioneers back in the day, when they put all this together, we had a sense of unity, we had a sense of purpose, we had a sense of a spirit of keeping that dream alive, and we are proud of who we are, and we appreciate the sacrifices that our pioneers have made for us. We're dealing with a lot of kids today who feel entitled. They figure that, that was something that my mom and grandma and all that went through, but that don't apply to me,
So I heard you spoke earlier about gentrification in Colorado, and how do you think that's impacted the Black community in Colorado and in the ways that we come together for events like this?
When we talk about the changing of communities, Back in the days, we used to have something that we called the hood. Where we felt that was a part of our culture. That's where anybody coming, they could go to the hood and find like people. But now we've lost our identity. Again, people felt that they had identity back in the day because they were from the hood or in the hood or whatever. We brought purpose and imagery, to the hood. But now, we've a lot of people are feeling a sense of hopelessness like they felt when Dr. King was killed, that we've lost our identity, we lost our purpose, we're losing our hood. We don't have a hood anymore. Anybody familiar with Weldon 5 Points? It was a historical place for blacks here in this city. But now, look at it. We got more white folks there than black folks or people of color. We got buildings coming up. We got so it is that identity that's being lost, and it is developing that spirit of hopelessness again, of saying, man, who am I? We as black folks have always been minority, but now we are really, really the minority in our own neighborhood.
And so what do you think is the solution? What do you think the focus needs to be on so that we can start to change that?
We're talking about regenerations of folks, a new purpose. We have to create a new sense of purpose in the minds of these youngsters. Because, when you see what is raising our kids right now, it is social media. It is the other things that is outside of the schoolhouse, the recreation centers, the streets and everything else. But we have to create a new sense of purpose for these youngsters to understand that their future homes don't have to be prisons, don't have to be the streets, don't have to be the cemetery. To get them to understand who their ancestors, what their ancestors did so that they could have the opportunity and the privileges that they feel like they're entitled to right now. So we need to maybe we need to start teaching things in school. Maybe the churches need to step up, as it was back in the days. Because the churches at one point was the surrogate home for all of us. Sunday was a day of reverence, but now, even in the churches, I feel that they need to be more engaged, in the history of the community, more so. We got a few churches that have been around for decades and generations, actually, but yet their philosophy, from what I've seen, has somewhat changed as how do we integrate, into the community that has changed. So those are just some of my thoughts as to what we need to do to try to bring back that sense of promise, that we are all men created equal, it can't just be dependent upon the internet to do that.
And my final question to you is, what is your vision for the MLK holiday in Colorado going forward? What would you like to see more of? What do you see now that you want to continue?
My vision going forth of this day, MLK, is that we will be able to go back to the basics of the dream. First of all, understand who the dreamer was and his mission, his sacrifices, his commitment to the change of mankind. So that once we understand where we come from, we could understand where the purpose of us going forward. My generation, I'm another few years be on the other side of getting close to 70, and I look back and I don't have the same energy. I don't have the that I had when I was 20, 30, 40 years of age. I'm looking at, I feel like Moses in the latter years. I'm looking for little Joshuas and Joshuas to come along to be able to pass this torch. But we need to have those Joshuas and Joshuas, who have that burning passion of history and the dream to be able to provoke their peers and others to go forward. So that is my hope, and I know that still, being a minister, being a preacher, I know that God is on, we got to give him his off the top. As Dr. King, he didn't go to beat folks over here with a spiritual bat. People knew who he was and what he stood for, and he had that as a foundation. And when we start talking about reverence of the church and of a particular day that we look at religious in the religious fortitude, so to speak, we have to be able to even get back to that, the basic of who God is for us, and give us the strength to take the people from captivity to the promised land.